Perfect.
Perfect.
Good.
Welcome. So, for everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Alicia Swani, and this is Samuel Weiß. And I moved to Germany in 2009 as an expat from Barcelona. I'm half Indian, half Latin, Spanish, and Bolivian. And I moved to Germany in 2009. I was, by the time, I think, 25 or 24 years old. And I moved as an expat, and I noticed how, dusty, how hard the bureaucracy back then was. I have to say it got so much better with time, with digitalization, with more expat advisors and a bigger expat community. So I feel there is more a friendly approach in Germany, what I appreciate a lot. And after suffering many, many years, I have to say, in the work field, in the bureaucracy, in friends, dating, everything, for me, Germany was pretty hard the first 5 years. In 2018, I retrained as a financial advisor and insurance planner. And I decided to dedicate my workforce purely to international people. And as mentioned, I've been observing that it's getting better in Germany. And we made it to our mission to educate in insurances, in ETFs, in real estate, in retirement planning before we make any offers. So this is our mission, and this is also the main target of this webinar, specific with real estate. And I'm also an ETF coach and a newly real estate agent in Germany and in the US. So because of this approach, being a financial advisor, I like to guide people a little bit differently than only showing perspective of gaining an own home. And our approach of gaining an own home is that there are other ways to gain it that might be more financially beneficial to you, because we never say that owning an own home is wrong. I truly desire to own an own home for myself one day, but being realistic and putting the numbers together, I still can't afford it. And being, like most of you, a high income earner. So we like to educate different approaches, more modern approaches to gain property, maybe also with a smaller salary or with smaller properties, because at the end, leveraging is key. And no matter where you are in the world, in Germany, in the US, in France, I know there's someone from France, you can approach this method everywhere. And today, Samuel will show us a small calculation, because when we go into our real estate consultations, there is a major question. So many people ask us, okay, you tell me, Alicia and Samuel, that we should invest first in a property as an investment and then in an own home, but why, if I still pay my own rent? And this is such a good question. And we wanted to dedicate a webinar to, if you, for example, are thinking to buy a real estate for your own or for investment this year, in the future, in 10 years, so you know the approach and the way to get there that makes more financially sense for you. So I hope you enjoyed this webinar, and I pass the word to my colleague Samuel, that we have been working for 4 years almost together in Corona time, where I thought I was losing all my ETF investment of my clients and retirement. I seek for his help to find a more sustainable financial tool rather than just money, because at the end, money is not the list. And we have been helping hundreds of expats since then, and our clients have been investing very successfully. So, Samuel, welcome, and thank you.
Thanks, Alicia, and welcome to this webinar from my side. I'm Samuel. I'm 32 years old, or young, whatever. So I'm happy to see you here. And as Alicia already said, Thursday evening, 7 p.m. It's not a usual time for education, but I think an investment in yourself is always the most important thing. I mean, investing, like money investment, is always very important. You work 8 hours a day for this, maybe 10, 12, 11 hours. But what you have in your let's say, in your brain, nobody can get it, or nobody can grab it, or nobody. You will never lose it. So my first question to you, and I hope you will. I don't want to just explain something. I hope it's not a monologue, but a dialogue. So if you have something, if you have a question, you can write this in the chat. We can answer later on all your question, and also I would like to to have a dialogue, not a monologue. So my first question to you would be right now: what do you think if we talk about a real estate? Let's say this is a real estate, a brick real estate. What is the difference between a real estate and this 50 euros bill? What would you say? You can write this in the chat. It's very interesting to see what people, or how you think about what is the difference here. Depreciate faster, that's correct. What else? Let's talk about inflation. I mean, I would say, yes, you're right. Tax benefits with real estate. Brick can make money. That's correct. Real estate is like cement gold. You're right. Actually, at the end, you can say a real estate in 10 years, the value will double. Okay. You will have, like, out of 100,000, you have 200,000 euros of value. But the value of this 50 euros, if you think about inflation, the value will be like half of it. Yeah. And I can tell you, this is something I was thinking 8 years ago when I was investing in real estates and other assets, in touchable assets. I was thinking about this topic, like, this is just this 50 euro bill is just a belief. Yeah, we believe that this 50 euros are 50 euros, and now we go to the grocery, we go to the bakery, and now we buy some, like, let's say 10 breads for 50 euros. This is just a belief. Yeah. And I can tell you, 8 years ago, when I started to invest, I thought, okay, maybe it makes more sense to invest in square meter, and maybe also additional in kilogram. And we will talk about the real estate topic today, and the specific about real estates as an own home, real estate for investment. And I mean, there are a lot of different opinions on the market. There are a lot of different opinions from different people. And I can tell you, I did some investment in the past, so I will tell you a little bit more about my experience with real estates, what I experienced, what I did in the last 7, 8 years, and what I'm showing my clients how to do this. Yeah? I'm going to share my screen, but before we start with this question to you, what would you say right now if we think about real estate in general? If it's an own home, if it's in real estate for investment, what would you say right now? What are the benefits or the advantages of a real estate specific in Germany? If you buy real estate, if you live in there, if you give it for rent, what would you say? Which benefits do we have right now in Germany? You can write it in the chat. I will read it. Tax benefits, okay. What do you mean with tax benefits? It's a buyer's market, okay, correct. I think there are a lot of benefits. There are a lot of advantages when it comes to real estate investments. So if we talk about general real estate investments, if it's an own home, if it's in real estate for investment, we can say, first of all, the first point, it was one of the reasons why I bought real estates, comparing to ETFs, to stocks, to other assets. We can say, if you buy real estate, if you live it if it's an own home, you can sell it after 3 years. After 3 years, you can sell it tax-free. If you give it for rent, after 10 years. Okay, this is something. Back then, it convinced me to invest in real estates because I thought, okay, back then I was 25. I thought, okay, with 35, I could sell the first real estates which I bought back then, tax-free. So this is one big benefit. I said, okay, this is something, yeah, you can make money with. Okay, this was the first benefit. What would you say if it comes to the value of the real estate, specific in Germany? What would you say? How did the prices go up in the last 10, 15, maybe 30, 40 years? Maybe do you have some numbers? Did you hear maybe some numbers in the past? How did the prices increase in the last 20, 30 years? I wrote down the number already before our meeting today. It's like 4% on average in the last 40 years. Yeah, I know the last 2 years we had some it was like a relaxed market, and when it comes to real estates, we had like 0.5, 1%, 2%. Actually, in good location, we still had an increasing. Yeah, a lot of people, they say, listen, the value of my real estate went down. It was more like about like not the best location. So when it comes to better location, we always had an increasing of the value. But and a lot of people say, yeah, you never know what will happen in the future. I can say I can tell you what happened in the last 40 years. The last 40 years, we had an increasing in average of 4%. So this is what we experienced in the last 40 years. And I mean, nobody knows what will happen. Nobody has this glass bubble. Nobody knows what will happen in the future, but what we can see what happened in the past. This was the second reason why I invested in real estate. I can tell you, back then when I was 21, I bought my first car. It was a big Audi, and I wanted to have a big, nice car. And I thought, okay, I don't have no money. I will get the loan from the bank for my car. And actually, it's the stupid idea what you can do, like what you can invest in to buy a car with a loan. So back then, I invested in this car, and the price or the value of this car went down every month, actually. When it comes to real estate, you invest in a real estate which increases all the time. So this was the second advantage I was thinking about back then. Okay, the third advantage, and we are talking about made in Germany. We are not talking about real estates in Poland. We are not talking about real estates in Italy, Spain, whatever, or wherever. I can tell you, when it comes to real estates in Germany, we have let's say in overall a good quality when it comes to real estates. For builders or investors, when they invest in real estates or they build up some real estates, there are a lot of rules, there are a lot of laws, but I can tell you, like made in Germany, when it comes to real estate, it's still a quality there. Okay, and the last point, and we will see about the last point, I will explain this a little bit more in later. It's the leverage effect, what you can use with real estates if you buy real estates as early as possible, and you use the leverage to buy the next real estates. But we will see later on how this works. So there are a lot of difference between an own home and real estate for investment. I can tell you, when it comes to investment in real estates, I already saw in the chat, there are a lot of tax benefits. And you have to know, when it comes to real estate for investment, the all the expenses which you have, like the interest charge, then also all the expenses like insurances, this is what is tax deductible. So the main part, what we are talking about when it comes to tax benefits, is the depreciation part. And this is a point which is very, very interesting these days. Maybe, first of all, the question to you, do you know how high the depreciation percentage is right now in Germany when it comes to real estates after 1925? Maybe somebody knows in this meeting how does it work and how much percent of the building part you can calculate as a depreciation? Does anybody know? Let me tell you, it's 2% of the building part. This is something, I mean, it would be very, like, really too much to explain, but I can tell you this is something like from the building part of the price which you paid for the real estate. 2% is what you can declare for real estate in your tax declaration 50 years in a row. Okay? That's when it comes to real estate for investment. The depreciation, because the tenant uses your apartment, he lives in your apartment, he uses your kitchen, your bathroom, the roof, the floor, the walls. You can calculate as a depreciation because he uses it. This is one big benefit. The second benefit when it comes to investment real estate is you can create passive income as soon as possible. I mean, it's always up to you. It's always up to the management. It's always up to you how you develop a real estate. So passive income is always a big benefit when it comes to investment real estate. But we will see later on, and I will tell you also about me, how I did in the last 8 years, and then how we help, like our service, how we help our clients to develop a real estate and how to increase the value also, and also to increase the rents which you get from the tenant. But first of all, before we come to this point, I would like to talk about an own home, because the topic today is what is the difference between an own home and real estate for investment. And first of all, I would like to calculate an own home. How much does an own home cost? And let's say, I will give you a number. Let's say we have an 80 square meter apartment, and let's say it's not downtown Frankfurt, it's not downtown Berlin, downtown Hamburg, Munich, whatever. Let's say it's 20-25 kilometers around those big cities. What would you say right now? How much would you pay for 80 square meter right now, like the purchasing price? How much would you pay for this? What would you say? 300,000, okay. Actually, you're right, Ioannis. 300,000. This is what I'm always thinking about. 300,000 is a number I'm always working with, or I'm always calculating with. Let's take 300,000. I mean, if we talk about the closer it is to downtown, to the center, it's always much more. Yeah, 350, 400,000. 500,000, 600,000, but let's take 300,000. Yeah, let's take the number 300,000. Do you know how much? Now we are talking about an own home. Do you know how much you have to calculate? I mean, you did not even move into there. Like you're thinking about to invest there.
Okay.
You're thinking about to buy this. Do you know how much percent you have to calculate, or how much? Or did you already, like, do you know about the side costs you have to calculate right in the beginning when you purchase this real estate?
I think there was a question.
Mm-hmm.
No, I have a quick question, because you said it's 2% depreciation for 50 years. That's only true for older buildings. Every new building will be depreciated by 3%. And it's not 50 years, but 33 years.
That's correct or not correct. There are always differences. I will come to this point later on also. If you buy in building year, and I can explain this a little bit more in detail, if you buy in building year after 1925, yeah, after 1925, it's 2%. Before 1925, or yeah, before 1925, it's 2.5%. If you have a new building, it's not in general 3%. It's like there are like projects from the government, 5, 6, 7%.
Yeah, right. You can make digressive or linear.
Correct.
You can choose, but it's just like it's not always 2%. That's just what I want to point out is it's not a fixed number.
The common number is always 2%. The common number, like the typical number, what you calculate is 2%.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I just have different information, but I can share what I know.
Sure, you can share this too. It's not a problem. And when it comes to depreciation amount, I can tell you there are differences between if it's a new building, if it's an older building, and then also, and this is a point very, very important. Now, let's say you buy a building with the year 1980. Now there's an option to increase the depreciation because you calculate, or not you, but a Gutachter, he calculates if the economy lifetime of this building is only 25 years, then you have also like 4% of depreciation. So in total, it's always 100%. If you have 3%, it's 33%, 2%, it's 33 years, sorry. If it's 2%, it's 50 years in a row. Okay? But we can talk about this depreciation later on. Now, let's say you buy an apartment or you buy a building with 80 square meters, and we say it costs 300,000 euros. Do you know how much percent you have to calculate, or how much you have to calculate right in the beginning for the site cost? Does anybody have a number or maybe a percentage? 7 to 10%, okay. Let me split this and let me explain this a little bit more in detail. 10 to 15%, 10%. It really depends on in which state you buy this building, in which state you buy this apartment, the house, whatever, and also if you buy this apartment from a real estate agency or with a real estate agency. Now let's see how much or what are the differences when it comes to taxes. So now I can tell you, for example, in Bavaria, it's 3.5% what you have to pay to the government to the Finanzamt because you bought a real estate from another person. In Hessen, it's 6%. In North Rhine-Westphalia, 6.5%. Let's take the average number of 5%. Okay, so in this case, you would have to pay 15,000 euros to the government because you bought this real estate. Now, on top of these taxes, you always have to calculate round about 2% for the notary. Not only notary costs, but also registration costs. You have to know your name wants to be registered at the court of this city. This is how it is. Like the rule in Germany, your name will be registered. So this costs money. So 2% notary and registration costs. This is what we have to calculate here also. So it would be another 6,000 euros. So now we are at 7%. And now it really depends on, do you have a real estate agency? Okay. Real estate agent, which charges you another 3%. Let's say 3%. Now here it also depends. If it's a bigger city, a lot of real estate agencies, they charge 4%, some 3%, some 2%. So let's say the average is 3%, would be another 9,000 euros what you have to calculate right in the beginning. So in general, there's a saying, you always have to calculate minimum 10% of the price for the site cost right in the beginning. Okay, so in this case, you have 300,000 euros for the apartment to pay. Okay. Now, a lot of people, they're thinking now, okay, 30,000 euros is not a problem. I'm going to pay this. I have some savings on the bank account. It's not a problem. But most of the people, I think it's not only about when it comes to real estate, but also about cars or other things. They don't think about just about purchasing a real estate or a car, but they don't calculate how much does a real estate cost during the whole time they are living in this real estate. Let's see how much does a real estate cost if you live in this real estate. Okay, if you use it as an own home, and let's see. And first of all, I mean, you have to pay like most of the people, they get the whole price, like in this case, 100%, 300,000 from the bank. Do you know how much percent you pay to the bank? First of all, as an initial amount, like in repayment, and second of all, for the interest charge. How much do you have to calculate right now with the current market price, market interest charge for the bank? How much do you have to calculate? 3 to 5%, 4 to 6%. Okay, 3.5% since, 1% repayment, 4%. Yeah, I can tell you, I'm actually I'm calling the broker and the banker and the banks, and actually every day, minimum 5 times a day. It goes up and down. In the last months, it went down. That's really nice to hear. But I can tell you right now, let's calculate with the higher interest charge. Yeah? And I know if you invest more from your savings, if you invest, let's say you only take 80 or 90% from the bank, you only have to pay 3.5, 3.6%. It really depends on the individual calculation. But let's calculate with the 4% of interest charge, and let's calculate with the 2% of repayment. So now we already said 300,000 is the price, and let's assume that you got everything from the bank. Okay, so 300,000 from the bank means in this case 12,000 euros in 1 year, on the first year, for the interest charge, and another 6,000 euros for the repayment, because the bank always wants to get back the 300,000 in a specific timeline. Okay, so in this case, 18,000 euros is what you have to pay in 1 year. And you have to know the bank always negotiates with you in the beginning, and then you pay this for 10 years, the same amount every month. So in this case, we would have 80,000 euros. So this divided by 12 months, you will have to pay 1,500 euros in a month. This is only for the bank, what you have to pay. Okay, this is only for the bank. Now you live in this apartment, and I mean, you use water, heating, etc. Like you use the building, you use the management, you also have to pay the maintenance savings. Do you have a clue how much for 80 square meters these days, how much you have to pay in a month right now for the heating, water? I'm not talking about the internet, electricity. I'm talking about the Hausgeld in general for an apartment like this, 80 square meter. Somebody writes 400 euros, okay? I mean, the site costs increased a lot, yeah? Does Hausgeld include heating charges? Yes, Hausgeld always includes interest charges, heating charges, sorry. It also includes water. It also includes housekeeping. It also includes maintenance savings, because if you buy a unit in a building with, let's say, 10 units, every owner has to pay a maintenance saving to the management, because in case something happens to the building, you have to change the roof, you have to change the heating. From this maintenance savings, you have, like, the management pays the bills for renovating. So I would say 400 euros is pretty realistic these days because everything went up, everything increases. So now let's see, in total, we have 1,900 euros in a month what you have to pay if you bought this apartment and you live in this apartment. And now let's do a calculation together. And let's take the 300,000 in the beginning. And what would you say? Like, maybe you did the calculation already. I don't know. What would you say? In how many years do you have to pay 1,500 euros every month to the bank? I'm just talking about the bank part, about this part. In how many years do you have to pay, or how many years in a row do you have to pay until you are at €0, until you paid back the 300,000 to the bank? What would you say? $40? 40, 20, 50? Big range. Let's see how a calculator looks like. And I can tell you I do the calculation almost every day. It's always the same. If you have 4% of an interest charge and 2% of repayment, you have, and we did it right back then, like a few minutes ago, 1,500 in a month. This is what you have to pay to the bank. So in 27 days, 27 years, you will pay back the 300,000 to the bank. Not 40, not 50, not 20 years, but in 27 years. So what would you say right now, if you think about the real estate market, in 27.5 years, what would you say right now? How high would be the value in 27.5 years? Roundabout. The new value. 500K? I can tell you, and I'm not going to calculate this. I can tell you, I do a lot of calculation every day, actually, but with only 2%. I'm talking about 2% of increasing of the value, 2% every year. In 27.5 years, we have a new value of 517,000. Okay. This is something you can calculate. You can calculate with 1%. You can calculate with 1.5, 2%, 2.5, 4%. I'm always the kind of person which calculates it with the lower percentage. In this case, with 2%, 517,000. Now imagine you bought this today, and now let's say you're 30 years old. And in 27.5 years, with 57.5 years of age, you are thinking about to sell the apartment because now you're old, you want to retire, you want to move to Spain, Italy, Thailand, whatever. Now you think about, and you do a calculation at the evening with your family, and you think about what did you actually invest in this real estate over the time. And this is a very, very interesting point. We have a new price of 517,000. This would be the new value. Now let's calculate 1,900 euros is what you pay in a month times 12 months times 27.5 years. You paid, in this case, 1,900 times 12 times 27.5, 627,000 euros. And in the beginning, we have to talk about the other 30,000 euros, like the 10% of site cost. So your total investment, would be 657,000 euros. Now you sell this apartment or this building for 517,000. 17,000. Would you say this is a liability or an asset? Is it an investment where you would say, like, listen, I did money with, or is it more an asset? What would you say? For sure, it's a liability. And Alissa dropped a new. Alicia said that a few minutes before ago. She said, "An own home is never a mistake." And I'm with you, Alicia. An own home is never a mistake. I mean, before you don't do any asset, before you do not invest in real estate, buy your own home, because at the end of the day, you have your own home and you can sell it, and you can sell it tax-free. But it's more an emotional decision, always. Abhishek, you're right. It's more an emotional decision because you have your floor, you have your wall, and honestly, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I can tell you, like in this case, we did not even talk about renovation. We did not even talk about a new kitchen every 10, 15, 20 years, a new floor, walls, bathroom. We did not even talk about, because an emotional decision is always connects with it's nicer, you have to have a nice apartment because you live in there. And I'm always the fan of to have emotions, like emotions together with what makes more sense, like and how can we combine this together? Okay.
Just one point from my side, Samuel. I fully agree with you. It's liability, but we have to consider something here. If you deduct, so if you go down and you deduct how much you spent over the years, the 657K with the 517, okay, we see that we didn't do at the end of the day good investment. But at the same time, for all of these
Right.
years, you would have to pay rent somewhere else, right?
Correct.
And if you put the numbers down, then the rent that we see, it's quite low. So in the long run, yeah, you might have saved some money compared to the rent that you have to pay. That's what I see. But I agree with you, as an investment, the investment itself is not profitable. But we have also to keep that in mind.
I'm with you totally, really. I'm with you, and we will let's take this thought, okay, and we will talk about this in a few minutes, because I know during this time you paid or like you did not pay to somebody else, to a landlord, no money, okay. This is what we have to think about, and maybe we can talk about this point right now already. What would you say? What would you say right now? How much would you pay for these 80 square meter as a rent right now? For 80 square meter, roundabout. And as I said, I'm not talking about downtown. I'm not talking about Berlin center. I'm talking about 20, 25 kilometers around. 1,200? I'm not talking about warm rent. I'm talking about cold rent. Let's talk about, first of all, about cold rent. I would say right now, with like a cold rent, it's minimum 800 euros. Warm rent, minimum 1,200 euros. Maybe it's 1,300. If we compare this with 1,900 euros, you still have a gap of 600, 500 euros, 700 euros. But, and this is what I always say, and real estate as an owner is never a mistake. Never, it's not a mistake. It's always a liability. That's how it is, because you invest a lot. But let's see in a few minutes how we can combine both things together, like real estate for investment, own home, so it makes sense. Okay, because at the end, everybody wants to have his own home. Everybody. Okay. And in this case, and I can tell you about me, I'm living in an apartment since 7 years, and I calculated this maybe 10, 15, 20 times, I don't know. I calculated how much would I pay for the same apartment if I would buy this apartment. Now, if I would live in this apartment and I would not have any real estate for investment, I would do some mistakes. Yeah, it would make more sense to invest in this apartment and then live in this apartment. But let's see in a few minutes how we can combine both things. So first of all, this is, I think, everybody got. Yeah, we have a loss of 517, 657, round about 140,000 euros of a loss. Not a loss, but this is something. If you would sell it, I mean, you paid much more during the time than what you sell it for. Okay. Let's talk about real estate for investment and compare those two investments, like real estate for an own home, real estate for investment, which you give for rent. And we already discussed 1,000 euros, 800 euros, 1,200 euros, 1,400 euros. Let's see how this would look like with real estate which you give for rent. And let's calculate. And in this case, 1,000 euros, let's calculate with 1,000 euros of rent, okay? And on the other side, we always, if it's an own home, if it's in real estate for investment, it's the same bank rate, okay? This is the same bank rate. This is the rent. But if you have a tenant in your apartment, okay, and he pays your site cost, and let's say back then we said like 400 euros in a month. Where is it? Here, 400 euros in a month. From these 400 euros, I mean, most of these site costs the tenant uses, he pays it, and then you have to pay. You have to pay to the management also. Okay. So in this case, as an owner, you always have a part of the site cost of the Hausgeld, okay? This would be a little bit too much if I would explain this more in detail, but it's, let's say, of 400 euros, it's maybe 100 euros. These are the owner's site costs, okay? The German word is nicht umlagefähige Kosten. This is something what you have to pay, but there's a big advantage of, or let's say benefit, when it comes to real estate for investment. We already talked about this is the tax return. And I can tell you, and as I said, it would be too much if we would talk about tax returns and whatever. This is what we can do. Really, I can do this really exactly in an individual calculation, individual call. But I can tell you more or less, all the clients, they get between 250 and 300 euros of tax return in a month if you have a real estate for investment. So now let's say, after all, you have expenses of 1,600, 1,000 euros of income. So in this case, your investment would be 600 euros on top of the rent, like from your pocket, from your, like monthly you have to pay 600 euros because you have a real estate for investment. So because we have a tax return of, let's say, 300 euros, your investment would be 300 euros in a month for this real estate. So in this case, I will write it down, 300 euros in this month. Now let's calculate how much do you invest for a real estate for investment. 300,000 euros. So we take the same numbers. We will not take other numbers. 27.5 years, €0 after 27.5 years. But you invest 12 months in a row times 300 euros times 27.5 years. And this is the thing what I'm always saying. Now you have a difference. Now you live in a real estate and you rent this real estate instead of buying this. There's a difference of, let's say, 600 to 700 euros. Now you can, I mean, it's an easy calculation. You can say, listen, 300 euros for one apartment. This is my investment in a real estate for investment. I could easily buy 2 real estates only with my monthly calculation. Okay, so in this case, we have 12 months times 300 euros times 27.5. Your investment would be 99,000 plus in the beginning 30,000, 129,000. This would be your investment. Now you see the difference. I mean, we don't have to discuss. Yeah, you have to pay rent, but if we compare those two numbers, these round about 400,000, you will never pay a rent somewhere else. Never. Okay, this is one point. The other point is, and we will write it down here, 517,000. 27.5 years, you invested 129,000. Oops, 99,000, sorry, 30,000 in the beginning. So you have a profit of round about 390,000, correct? Is it correct? 129, 517. Now you sell it for 517 minus 129, round about 390,000 euros. This would be your tax-free profit if you sell this real estate. Okay. And now I want to come to one specific point, and this is what I experienced. And I mean, we can discuss this. We can discuss this until tomorrow at 5 a.m. in the morning. I can tell you, I experienced this in the last 7-8 years, and I would talk about a specific number. I mean, this number here is a fixed number. 300,000. This is something we can calculate. This is something we can calculate. It depends on how fast do you want to pay back. And this is something we can calculate. How long will it take until we are at €0? This is something we know. This is something. Oops. This is something. We have 12 months. What's about the number of €300? What do you think? Your investment from your side, will it decrease or increase? What would you say? The investment from your pocket. Why do you think your investment, Mikey, why do you think your investment will increase? Abhishek, you are right. It will decrease as rent increases. And this is all about investment, which real estate, like real estate, which you give for rent. Now I can tell you, I don't know about you. None of my landlords, and I moved a lot in the last 15 years. Nobody of my landlord sent me a letter. No one, which said, "Listen, now you're such a nice guy. You're 190 centimeter, 1.9 meter tall. You're crazy nice. Next month you have to pay 50 euros less." Nobody. Actually, every landlord wrote me after a few months, after a few years, "Listen, I want to increase the rent. Please pay next month 10% more, or in 3 months, 10% more of rent."
There's a good question, Samuel, from Deep. I'm not sure you want to like answer this now or like at the end of the Q&A.
At the end, please. At the end, yeah.
Because it's a good question.
Sure. What I want to say is this: the 300 euros, and I can tell you, I can tell you a lot of stories about my clients, about myself. I have several real estates. I always increased rents, not 20% in 3 years, but relaxed 5, 10, 12, 12.5, 15%. So the 300 euros, if we think about the rent, the 300 euros will always decrease. Yeah, if it will not decrease, you and the management is doing something wrong. Okay, so it's all about you and about the management you're working with, or maybe about if you bought in a bad location where you cannot increase rent anymore. It's about you. Okay, But we can for sure say this amount of investment from your side will always decrease, always. And I mean, we can talk about why does it happen out there. I can tell you, and I have here a nice picture. When we see the map of Europe in Germany, or Germany is the country with the lowest ownership percentage.
Yeah.
So this means the people are renters. The people are tenants. People move from city to city, from apartment to apartment. Okay? This means you can use the market quite good for yourself. We use it, my clients, they use it. Yeah? Because we increase rents, we develop an apartment. What does the law say? A lot of people ask me, okay, what is legal? I can tell you, the law says this: out of bigger city, if you have an apartment directly in Berlin, Frankfurt, Stuttgart, you're not allowed, this is the law, you're not allowed to increase the rent like more than 15% in 3 years. Okay, so this means if you start with 1,000 euros today, 1,150 euros in 3 years, that's about in 3 years. Okay, a lot of people say, okay, I don't want to increase by 15%, let's say 10%. I can tell you, you cannot. I mean, even if you would increase by 5%, the bank rates are always fixed for 10 years, so you can always increase. So this means it will always decrease your investment from your side. Okay.
Is it, I have a question, is it, can you increase the rent? Is it for every location different, or in some locations? Because there are some locations that you cannot increase the rent. I think it's around Berlin, but in other locations you can, right? Because there might be like property owners, especially also Mickey, like this is interesting to know, like where can I increase the rent and where not, in which regions?
I can tell you, it really depends on location. It really depends on if you buy in a big city, like as I said, in downtown, you're not allowed to increase by more than 15%. But at the end, the market creates the price. And if the demand is very high, and this is how it is in Germany, if the demand is very high, you can ask for a higher rent too. So it really depends on the condition of the apartment. It really depends on the location. It really depends on the market. So if the demand is very high, you can always increase it. And actually, nobody of us, I think nobody of us in this meeting today would ask for the same rent if you, let's say, now you own in real estate since 5 years. Or maybe I give you my example. My old lady of my apartment, like an old lady, she will move out end of February of one of my apartments. She lives in there since 8 years. I will not ask the new tenant for the same rent, never. Why should I ask it? I mean, the price went up. Why should I ask this? And that's why what we can say for sure is we can always increase the rents, always. So this means your investment from your side always decreases.
When it goes down to zero based on your calculation, the investment from your side.
Pardon?
When it goes down to zero, when do you don't have to put anything from your pocket, it runs on its own?
Very good question. I will come to this in a few seconds, few minutes, because it's very interesting. I think if you would, I mean, you can never say this in general because you never know how long will the tenant live in there. Will you furnish the apartment, for example? Will you rent it out with a kitchen, for example? I will come to these points in a few minutes, okay? But it's not only about the markets, also about the tenants, also about you. I can tell you, with my two first real estates I bought in 2017, with my first real estate, or with one of them, I made it in 3 years. With the other one, I will make it now in, no, I did it in 6 years. Okay. So it really depends on how long is your tenant living in there? Will he move out? Do you develop the apartment? Do you furnish the apartment? It really depends on circumstance.
I have also a question, Samuel, because at the end, we were saying that owning own home might be the goal, not for everyone, but for most of the people. I don't know if we can squeeze it in this webinar because it's now about like the paying rent. But of course, it's very interesting if you like buy first the real estate as an investment, how you can like leverage it to an own home and get it like more beneficial financially. So because this is also like a very interesting topic for everyone who has like an investment and wants to jump into an own home, how you can use that, making it cheaper, actually.
Let's see this. Let's see this. I think everyone got this, yeah. And I can tell you, I don't know who asked this question. I can tell you if you do this, let's say with a tenant who lives in there around about 6 to 8 years, okay, in 6 to 8 years maximum. I'm talking about maximum. And now after 8 years, you have still 20 years, 21 years to go. So now imagine you have a passive income. I would say, and I'm pretty, let's say, I'm pretty sure to say this, an investment in real estate for investment or renting out apartment is a €0 number, because in 21 years you get back the money what you invested in the beginning, included the side cost. But this is something we can calculate more in detail. How can we combine, now we come to this point, Alicia, how can we combine real estate for investment, real estate as an own home? I can tell you, I'm 32 years old and I'm always thinking about an own home. Always. I always thought about living in my own four walls. Yeah? I can tell you, now just imagine, before you buy an own home, you buy 2 real estates for investment. I'm talking about 2 apartments. And let's say you buy these 2 apartments right now, and you say, okay, in my own home, I will delay this a little bit. Maybe in 3 or 4 years, I want to buy my own home. But I can tell you, the market works for you. This means the remaining loan goes down. Now we come to this advantage, which I mentioned already before. The leverage, what we can use from the real estate for investment, in this case, between the new value and the remaining loan, this leverage you can always use as a safety for an own home. This means you can get a bigger loan, you can get a better interest charge, and also in case, and this is how I did it in the past, in case you say, listen, now in this case, let's say 250,000 together, banks always calculate 70 to 80% as a leverage, like as a security. So in this case, you take the security of the first investments of the real estate for investment. Now, not only the leverage, but let's say you furnish the apartment and you build up as soon as possible passive income. If it's 100, 200, 300, 400, 500 euros of passive income, it's up to you. It's up to the apartment. It's up to the location. It's up to you. Do you have somebody which developed this apartment? Now, let's say you buy in real estate as an own home. You can easily sell one real estate and afford a bigger own home. Or you say, listen, I don't want to pay back my own home 20 years in a row. Now, let's say now you buy today, in 5 years, you buy an own home, and in 20 years, you want to sell one real estate which you rent out. Okay? But I can promise you, if you taste how it feels to have passive income, you will never sell real estate because you will never kill your golden goose, which gives you golden eggs every month. So let's say you have a passive income, you can take this passive income, which you build it up like during the time with development, whatever, you take these 500 or 200 or 100 euros and you put it in your own home, so you pay back your own home fast, not only with 2% of repayment, but maybe with 3 or 4% of repayment. So you pay back your own home faster. So this is all about the way to an own home. I mean, a lot of people, they ask me what does make sense, like what makes more sense, an own home, first an own home and then buying real estate for investment. I can tell you we can do a lot of calculation. It's really more in detail, but I can tell you if you have an own home, with an own home, you block your financial situation, your monthly financial situation quite fast, and you cannot buy as much as if you would start right now with real estate for investment. Okay. Does anybody have a question about this?
Yeah, I probably have two quick ones, if you don't mind. But I think it's better to just say it instead of chatting. Shall I go ahead? Or shall
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, probably the first one, I may missed it, I'm not sure, but while you are dealing that with the 300 as a fixed one, it either will decrease or stay the same. I know that we said the rent will increase and that will make this 300 decreases. But I mean, if this 300 is already calculated based on or including also the maintenance and other things that you as an owner have to pay, because I believe these things also will go up as years go, right? So your cost is also your expenses as an owner may increases. So I feel like we should also
a short question: Do you have a real estate?
No, unfortunately, no.
I can tell you out of my experience, the part of the owner from the side cost, my part, it increased in the last 7 years. I can prove it. Maybe from 80 euros now to 95 euros. It's maybe 10 to 15 euros because the maintenance savings increase and maybe the electricity of the entrance, but that's it. The part of the owner is very, very low. So this increase doesn't increase really. The part of the heating water increased a lot. This is what we can say for sure.
But the tenant pays that, right?
Yeah, the tenant pays it. So
okay. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, okay. So in this sense, then it makes sense. I mean, like the second one I have also because one of the things that like the more I read about it, the more I feel afraid about it, right? Which is why also the ownership ratio in Germany is low. I think a lot of things that I read was relates to the law is generally not friendly with owner. Like for instance, there are also certain cases where you can't really ask the renters to leave the house or something, even if you want to buy it or sell it. You know, like in the examples that you shared here. I hear that there are also cases that even this as an owner, you can't really ask someone to leave the house. It's like usually not that simple. So I'm not sure if this info is also accurate because my sources usually like just search
but okay, question at this point. Now you are the owner of the apartment. I mean, there are options how to quit a contract. If you say now you want to live in this apartment, you can quit. Yes, it takes time, that's for sure. But why should you kick him out? Like, why should you kick him out? Or did I misunderstand this? I don't. Maybe I.
No, I don't want to do that for sure. But I mean, like for the case that you shared, that if someone wants to own, right? So and he has like two houses or apartments for investment. Then later on, if he wants to own his house, he can sell one of them and buy his own apartment, right? So just like want also to share this limitation that it could be wrong, as I mentioned, but the law is not like it can really reach to this level that you can't really ask someone to leave to sell the apartment.
but
Or
why
you
should
mean
you-
like you will sell it?
Mhm.
Yeah.
But let's say now I have an apartment and now I have a tenant. Why can I not sell the apartment with the tenant in there? I can sell it.
Okay.
I can
Yeah.
sell it. I can sell it with the current rent, what he pays. I don't have to kick him out. To sell an apartment, I don't have to quit the contract. He's in there. The new owner takes the apartment with the tenant.
Samuel, how many percent?
Got it. But this is well.
Sorry.
Sorry, go on.
No, how much percentage of our apartments that we offer have a tenant? What would you say?
80%. 80% of my apartment or of our apartments, clients from us, they buy the apartment included the tenant.
Okay, nice. And this will not reduce the property price that much, because I can see like if there is already a renter or something, then the prices will be very different, as far as I know.
For sure, it's always the price, and I can tell you, it's not only about from your point of view. In this case, does it make sense to buy this apartment because the tenant pays 300 euros of rent, but the apartment costs 300,000? Makes no sense. I would never buy this. That's how it is. The bank also evaluates the apartment not nice because the rent is very low. You have to know, real estate for investment, real estate which you give rent is like a company. If the numbers of the company is not good, why should you buy this company? Yeah? That's why it's always very important to check what are the numbers, what are the condition of the apartment, how is the management doing, the economy of this building, whatever. But again, back to the question. Now, let's say I own this apartments or the apartments I bought in the last 7-8 years. If I want to sell them, I can sell it with included the tenant. I don't have to wait until he moves out.
And if the tenant moves out, it's actually a good situation, what we saw with our
Always.
client, because we also support to furniture apartment, and if it's possible now between us to rent it out to guest workers, to company. This is something that this is our cherry on the top. So actually, we look forward that the tenant moves out. It's actually a good situation. So coming back to this 300 euros, this is a way how you can eliminate them or even go in plus. But you have to develop the real estate, what can take, well, how much it takes, like 1, 2, 3 years.
1, 2, 3, yeah.
Exactly. This is how it works. Yeah, I have like a couple.
Got it. Clear
Yeah,
enough.
no, this
Thanks.
was a very good question. I'm glad that you made it, because
Yes.
I was actually not aware that this could make sense. That okay, can I sell a real estate with a tenant? Yes, no. And before I moved, I was working with Samuel. I was also not aware of that. So it is good. It is good.
Questions are always good.
Do you want to möchtest du die Fragen durchlesen oder wollen wir noch ein bisschen weiter?
Maybe before we go to the question, like Q&A, maybe I will shorten a little bit up our services, what we are doing, how we help our clients, okay? Because it's very interesting what I showed here. This is what we are doing with our clients in individual calculation. We calculate, okay, what makes sense. We calculate how much could our client earn money with the real estate in a certain time. So we help our clients not only before, like we help our clients during the consultation. We explain everything more in detail. We explain everything, like how does a real estate work? What's written in the loan contract? What's written in the purchasing contract? What are the differences between loan contracts? What are the differences between different banks? I can tell you we work with up to 900 banks in Germany when we compare those banks all over Germany and check what is possible. We don't have these 3% of commission what you pay out there on the market. Why? Because we work with big investors. They buy, they sell, they ask us to sell. So we just take the commission from them, not from the buyer. So in Germany, there's a law, you're allowed to take it just from the seller, but you're not allowed to just take it from the buyer. Okay? So you as a client, you don't have to pay the 3%. And this is something I'm very proud of it. Alicia already told you, a lot of people out there, they don't know this depreciation amount, what we were talking about back then. And I will explain this really in detail in individual consultation, but we increase this depreciation amount quite high. Like, we help our clients if they buy a building and we have our Gutachter, we help to get a really nice tax return. So this means the 300 euros, and I started with 300 euros in this case. This is not realistic. We are lower than that. Maybe we're right now already with this tax return at €0. This is something we can calculate. Okay, we help our clients to develop this. How do we do this? Not only with the depreciation, what we can increase, but also we help our clients to furnish apartments, help our clients, if the apartment gets empty, to find an apartment or to find tenants which pay more, service apartments, booking.com, Airbnb, something like that. This is something we do for our clients, and where we increase the rent up to 40% more than what a long-term tenant would pay. Not only this, in general, after sale is very, very important for us. We take care about site cost calculation. We take care about communication with the tenant. We take care about what if you have some question about the tax return, about the tax declaration. We help you with this. So, I mean, experts, internationals, German bureaucracy is very, very, it's like a jungle, and we help you to go through this jungle and help you to, we help to clarify not only this, but also we help you to build up a portfolio. Not just to invest in one real estate, but in the second, third, fourth, fifth, 10th real estate.
Yes, it's also very important to know, because many people say, oh, I don't want to like become a real estate mogul, etc. But many people start also working with us because they wanted an own home, you know, and they just use the investment because they had not enough money as a collateral. So it's also very interesting how we can approach also different ways. So you don't need to want to be a real estate mogul like Samuel, you know, that his whole life in real estate, and we always battle between ETF and real estate. By the way, there was a very good question on ETF and real estate that I would love to answer. But it's also like very good if you want to use it as a collateral, as a jumping jack to like a bigger investment. Is always like, it's just cheaper to say it like that, to start like the monopoly, you know, you start with like the cheap streets and then you move forward. It's always easier.
Correct. I saw a lot of question here.
I do have also a verbal question, which is a bit more specific, but but I think could be interesting also for parents in this group. So most of us, I think here we are foreigners. So I'm foreigner, you know, and I'm planning at some point to leave Germany. We as parents, we receive this Kindergeld, right? And I want to ask you, I have heard about this, but I'm not so sure. I have not read it anywhere. So they told me that if you still have an income in Germany through rent, so you have your own apartment, your own investment, right? And you rent it out, and then you leave the country, so you still have an income in Germany, then you are eligible to still receive the Kindergeld for your kids until they're 18. Is that true or not? Because if you have 2 kids and you leave Germany and you that's round about half K per month only from the Kindergeld. Do you have this information, or?
Now you caught me, and I can tell you 999 of 1,000 questions I can always answer when it comes to real estate. But this question, I mean, I have a kid, but this question I can check out for you. It's not a problem.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you will get Kindergeld if you have a rent, which you get in as from a real estate in Germany. I don't know this really.
But it is something to check, because when I was living, so I grew up between 2 countries, Germany and Spain, when I was a kid. And while living in Spain, I still receive Kindergeld. So it has also maybe something to do with the European Union, maybe. So yeah, that's an interesting question also for me to know. For
I heard
everyone.
about it and I find it super specific, but also super super special, because then it's really game changer.
Yes, it's a
I
lot
will
of
write, I will write it down, because I have some people which moved out of Germany, and I can ask them. That's not a problem.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Yonis, I saw your question regarding the ETF, like the return of investment, because an S&P 500 does now, by the way, I have an ETF coaching session on the 15th of February for beginners, pure educational. And we're going to talk about that too, like about the S&P 500 and about the returns of investment. Like now it's giving like, 12 to 20%, and it's crazy. And I always recommend to invest into S&P 500. And actually, because Samuel and I in real life have always this discussion, we battle a little bit in a friendly way. We made actually a webinar about ETF and real estate. What is better? I'm not telling who won at the end, but there are major difference. And it is important to like differentiate both assets, because at the end we come to the conclusion that they're very different. Also over the long term, because the taxes play an enormous role here too. The taxes, but I will, Yanis, I will send you this webinar if you like, because it's a very long thing to explain. Because yes, 10%. You could, for example, if you save some money on a real estate, what you will spend on your own, could invest this money into an S&P 500, 100%. So you could use it as a strategy.
For me, diversifying, it's important. So if you ask me, if you have also the means, you should be in both. But I want to understand also from your point of view, maybe if you haven't done any, with what to start. Do you start with real estate? Or, I mean, personally, I have it, yes, but I'm asking, like, what would you recommend?
Okay, some will say real estate, because I would say maybe ETF, but I'm more security-oriented person. Samuel is his major wealth building. That's why I appreciate working with him, because he wants his money and other money to like grow tremendously, and takes more risk. It depends on your situation, because in S&P 500 you can take it out whenever you want. Okay, so psychologically for you as an investment starter, it is a very secure tool to start investing, to start like getting money out of your bank account and seeing it grow. And through a broker account or through a retirement account, you can take the money almost every time you want, with a little bit of losses. Now, if you buy a real estate, even if a real estate will give you generational wealth, and over the long term, I can spoil it, will give you more returns, because it's a lifetime, S&P 500, what you invest will be empty one day, but the real estate still gives you like an income. It is hard to sell. You cannot sell it immediately. So imagine that this is your first investment and your only investment, and you need the money because bad things sometimes happen, or you want to become a freelancer, your parents get sick. I've seen so many things during my career where people need money. So it is essential that you have both for your security. And I would say start something, mellow with the S&P 500. Samuel will say buy a small real estate, but everyone is different.
Yeah.
Buy not only one real estate, but 15.
50, exactly.
Because I'm a big fan, I can tell you. I would say 90% of my money goes into real estates. I invest all my money in real estates because at the end, what I showed you in the beginning, these 500 euros, not 550 euros, this is actually a real bill. And the first time when I broke a bill like this, I thought it's not possible to do this. Yeah? And I can tell you, I bring this to a bank and they give me a new one. Yeah, and but I can tell you this is just a belief. And I always think about if you have square meters. Yeah, I mean now I'm sitting in a real estate. I don't know where you are, but actually you are also in a real estate. Why should I not invest in this real estate or in a real estate in square meter and kilogram? Yeah, kilogram is another topic. Gold. I'm a big fan of gold and real estate. So I'm this touchable guy. Yeah.
Let
But
us
ETF, I mean, there are big advantages. Yeah, you can sell it quite fast and take out of money. I mean, you can use different tools, but the biggest product what you can have is a real estate, and you make most of your money if you want to be wealthy with real estates. That's how it is.
I have another question from DP. If you buy a house for yourself and live there for 1 year and then give it on rent for a second year, then will there be any advantages or disadvantages any? Yeah, the taxes, right, Samuel? If you, yeah. So as soon as you live there, it is like it will be treated like an own home if you are registered there, of course.
For sure. Even, and I think I saw the question somewhere, I didn't find it yet, but even if you buy, let's say, a 2-unit building, and now you live in the upper unit, and now you rent it out in the lower, like in the other unit, you rent it out to a tenant, you cannot calculate the depreciation for the whole building. You can just calculate it for part of the building, because let's say 50 square meter of 100 square meter is 50%. So you can only declare 50% of the depreciation because you use the other 50% by your own. Yeah? Differences. There are a lot of differences between own home and real estate for investment. But it's always a question how you do this. Strategy is very, very important. And it's always the question, what is your goal in future? A lot of people, and I mean, Alisa, you know, we work with a lot of expats. A lot of expats or internationals, they want to make money in Germany. They want to move out of Germany, and things like this. I mean, this is what we always discuss in our consultation. Yeah, what if the owner moves out of Germany? What happens with the taxes? What happens with the tenant? Who takes care about this? Do we have a management who checks all the paperwork, what you get, and so on? So yeah, it's very, very individual, but I think we have a lot of solution for this.
What about I buy a house and rent part of it? Okay, this is Joy. Did we answer your question? I think Joy. Okay, no problem. I hope, Joy, that this was the question.
There's
Okay.
a bank to give you the loan for a lower interest if you're going to buy it as your own place, which is also should be considered. Yeah, I can tell you these are some tricks. How do you say tricks? Yeah, tricks how you can get a lower interest if you let's say declare to the bank that you're going to live in this apartment. Now you put your name on the ring, on the bill, a few weeks and months, things like this. I know these things, and I can tell you we always compare what if you just ask for for a bank which like to live in there, or if you ask a bank just to give it for rent. I can tell you the big difference are not big, and the interest charges are not crazy. A lot of people think that's not how it is. But this is something we always compare and we check for everyone. And yes, there are some hints, and I can tell you we are quite good in this with banks. Yeah, and it always, you have to know, a bank always calculates how high is your risk, or how high is the risk with you, dealing with you. And at the end, it's always important, how do you sell yourself to a bank? Do you sell the bank a nice story, and does the bank like you, and do they see, do they calculate you as a low risk?
Also, for everyone that is thinking to buy an own home and wants like, or is almost buying an own home, Samuel is back from his vacation in end of February, and we can like we always do like consultations without commitment, also to like see if there's like a better strategy than jumping into buying an own home through an investment property, etc. And I hope we responded all questions. Do you have more questions? Someone has more questions?
I just have one question.
Yes.
Since we spoke about this map that was interesting, that Germany has the lowest ownership rate. So this means the system is rigged in a way that it's better to rent or buy a property and rent it out than to be like an owner.
Maybe it's.
The-
Do you think it's a cultural thing, Samuel, too?
It's a very, very good question. I mean, comparing, and I can tell you, I'm traveling a lot, and I can tell you, most of the apartments or buildings in Germany, they are not used by their own owners.
I know. From the places I live, I've felt this always. Some one person is owning maybe 10 properties or something. I don't know.
Yeah. And I can tell you, I don't know what I mean. I can tell you about my experience, but I'm, as I said, I'm traveling a lot. I know a lot of people.
Yeah.
People, they move from city to city. Now you have a better job in Munich, you have a better job in Stuttgart,
Yeah.
Berlin, Hamburg, whatever. Then you move, yeah, instead of buying an own home. I don't know why it is so crazy compared to other countries. This is really, it's really crazy. But what I can tell you, it's a very tenant-friendly market here.
Yeah, sure.
And
Yeah.
it's a very and also the whole system and I mean, it would be too deep into this topic, but why do the government and the banks advertise buying an own home? I mean, with buying an own home, you don't have no tax benefits.
Yeah.
And you don't get tax back from the government. And who's holding most of the apartments? Big investors. That's how it is. 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 investors. Vonovia, for example, they have a lot of benefits with these rules in Germany. Yeah. Good question.
Yeah, but that's the whole point of your seminar. I think it makes sense because of the system is like this, you know.
I know how to use these things, and and we can have a lot of benefits with this.
Yeah. Because here where Alicia is, the system is different. I think a lot of people own in the US, right? It's like 80% or 70% probably.
Exactly. But people start to like awake, especially young people, at what used to be the American dream of owning like a big car and a big house. And thanks God, you know, it's changing too. It's changing too, that people want to like become more financially like smart and also like free from liability.
FIRE movement and financial independence, retire
Exactly.
early. Yeah.
Right now, time is more important than money. And this is our approach, especially working with like young people or young professionals, that yes, wealth is important, but you want to create wealth to like have more free time and less debts, you know.
Getting out of the hamster wheel.
Exactly. Yeah. And or just work with what makes you, with what you are pleased, you know, in an environment that you like, because I think working is healthy. But yeah, exactly. That's correct. And there's something also very important about the system. I used to like complain a lot about the system, you know, that rents
All
are
of us,
up and so on. I used to like really like complain about Germany. And then I like the approach to like, okay, there's something that we cannot stop. We can't control what the system is going or the politics. But we can use it in an ethical way still, you know, to our advantage.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. In an ethical way, you know, like as some will say, even the law tells you that you can increase by 20% every 3 years the rent. Do you want to do that? You know, yes, no. But still you can build up wealth. Yeah, it's very interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, of course. Thank you, guys.
I mean, I've been to a lot of webinars. I would say this is one of the most very clear and direct and well explained one to understand the concept. You know, a lot of people keep saying the same concepts, but you explain it better. So thank you.
Thanks. Nice to
Thank
hear.
you so much. That's a lovely feedback. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I will, guys, send you to everyone the recordings. If you want to share this with friends, with family, if they need this information. And yeah, write me also like an email if you have more questions, if you want us to like look on a calculation or decision that you're about to make, or maybe you want to work today with us or next year or in 2 years. We are more than welcome to support. And again, I appreciate so much that you took the time. Also, Samuel,
Yes.
you put so much energy into explaining this, because it's very essential. And it's mentioned, it's not only for people who need to work with us. We love you to work with us, but you can apply this really everywhere in the world where you move.
Yes. Thanks also from my side. Thank you for your time, and I appreciate your time. So maybe we see you again. And have a nice evening.
Bye
Have a
bye.
nice weekend.
Bye-bye. I will get back to all of you asking for feedback and sending you the recording. So don't mind me.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Okay.
Ciao, ciao.
Thank you so much, DP. Yonis, thank you so much for the
Bye-bye.
questions. Thank you, DP, for the questions. Who is
Bye
there?
bye. Thank you.
Joy, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Abhishek, it was very nice to meet you. Is Joy there? Bye, Joy.
Hi, hello.
Hi. Did you like it?
Yes, it was very informative.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much, Joy.
Yeah, I had a question like, where will be this recording will be sent by LinkedIn or
Good question.
some?
Did you are we connected on LinkedIn?
Yes, we are.
Perfect. So I will send it to you via LinkedIn. You can also send me like a message, because did you got the link through the invite I put today?
Yes, I just saw in this evening, and that's great that I saw because I was almost missing it.
I'm so happy. Good decision. You know, sometimes we make up making good decisions for ourselves. That's so sweet. Perfect, Joy. Drop me a message on LinkedIn, and then we follow the conversation, and I will like say hi and send you the recording.
Okay, thank you. Thank
Because
you
I
very
might
much.
need your email address for this. You can
Yeah.
send me your email address, and I can send you like a link or wie heißt das? Like a drop, not drop off, like
Dropbox?
Dropbox or something like that. So it's easier.
Okay. Okay, and Samuel, also thank you very much for your great
Welcome. It
explanation.
was nice. It was nice. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank
Good.
you. Have a nice evening. Bye bye.
Lovely.
Alicia, wie mache ich das jetzt mit dem Aufnahme
Oh,
stoppen?
go to more, and
Ich,
then, okay, no, you can go up on the right, and there's recording, or I can, let me get the host back.
ja, warte mal, ich gebe dir mal einen Host, weil ich keine Lust habe, dass ich das lösche irgendwie. Ne? So?
Nee,
Achso.
so stop recording. I got this. Stop recording.